Welcome to Two Open Doors, the podcast that explores our power to open or close the doors of relationship with the important people in our lives. We hope you'll learn from and share your wisdom with our community. Thanks for joining us. For most of those who are in mainstream committed relationships in our culture, there is a relationship escalator that provides a roadmap of how that relationship is expected to develop over time. The escalator consists of a succession of steps that correspond to deepening commitment and sharing of life goals in the relationship. We'll describe that sequence and we'll examine how that set of relationship stepping stones can provide structure for the relationship. For those who undertake committed relationships outside the mainstream, the relationship escalator may well not apply. Such a situation poses a question as to how such individuals can determine whether their relationship is growing and maturing or not. Similarly, it raises a question of what might serve as an alternative compass to guide the making of life decisions. Let's begin by looking at what the relationship escalator is and how it works. The concept originated in 2012 with Amy Gayron writing under her pen name of Aggie Says. It basically prescribes an inflexible, well-defined path to attaining lifelong monogamous love and family, which is the accepted relationship ideal in our society. Different versions of the escalator may apply in different cultures. Despite these differences, the scheme is universally dominated by heterosexual monogamous ideals. In American culture, the escalator steps or phases may be something like the following. First comes making contact, in which the couple meets and flirts. That's followed by initiation, during which dating ensues, including shared dinners, entertainment, etc., and interactions start to become sexual, usually initiated by the male. Third is claiming and defining, in which sexual and emotional contact becomes confined to the couple, and that becomes a mutual expectation. Other relationships diminish in importance. That's followed by commitment, in which the couple becomes engaged, usually initiated by the male, and the partners meet each other's families. The couple marries, and each partner assigns top priority and attention to their spouse. Step 5 is establishment, during which childbearing and child rearing may occur. Then comes conclusion, in which sexual activity and fervor declines between the partners and infidelity may occur. The children leave home, but the couple continues to cohabit. And then comes legacy, in which one partner dies and the other, usually the woman, may remarry. This is probably a pretty familiar script for most American couples. Certainly, this is the path that is laid out for their kids by most parents, and these are the expectations that are entrenched in the social norms taught by churches, schools, and other social organizations. This is what's normal in the U.S. On the surface, all might seem well with this path. So why not take the escalator? Is there any reason for concern over the escalator expectations? Perhaps there are two different sorts of concerns to consider. First, there is the matter of sustainability. Once the couple is established and they take on the responsibilities of raising a family, that burden usually falls almost completely on the two partners. That can lead to potential burnout and to problems in equitably sharing that burden. Note that in many cultures outside the U.S., extended family and local community often provide support for the parents. That's the inspiration for the observation that, quote, it takes a village to raise children. The second problem is that the escalator can lead to an impoverishment of life. For example, in step 3, or claiming, the couple's narrowing of focus to each other can reduce the amount of healthy friendship that would otherwise enrich the lives of both partners. Similarly, the focus on duty that comes with step 5, or establishment, can suck the joy and excitement out of the relationship, reducing the attraction between the partners and potentially driving them in different directions in an attempt to live a satisfying life. That can reach a critical point during step 6, or conclusion, with differing needs and desires potentially leading to infidelity and subsequently to divorce. The escalator may be an easy path to get onto, but it's not necessarily an easy path to stay on. It demands an awful lot of its practitioners, and it may well underserve the human need for experimentation, adventure, and fun. Recall that as the sage therapist Esther Perel observes, we humans do need stability, predictability, and dependability, but we equally need novelty and excitement. Is there another path? With the realization that the relationship escalator is not a panacea, we're left with questions about what other sorts of paths might be available to create a more functional and satisfying committed relationship. Without the progression of tangible relationship milestones provided by the escalator, how can one know how a relationship is evolving and whether it's moving one toward or away from one's relationship goals? To pave the way for such considerations, it seems useful to think about what purposes the relationship escalator serves. Relationships offer two different sorts of benefits for the partners in a couple. They help promote a fuller, richer, and more enjoyable life, and they provide each partner with support that they would not otherwise have as individuals. The degree of emphasis on each of these benefits varies with the type of relationship. For example, mutual support may be deemed less important than life enrichment in a polyamorous relationship between young people. Conversely, mutual support may be a dominant motivating factor in couples that are coping with raising a young family or who are navigating old age. In traditional escalator-based relationships, the partner's investment in their relationship, in terms of time, finances, and psychic energy, grows over time, often culminating when the children leave home. Perhaps that's why many relationship splits occur at that point. Investment in the relationship has waned or stopped, and it may seem more promising and productive to invest elsewhere. Similarly, attachment may peak at that point in a couple's life. That's especially true if the partner's personal meaning has become vested in their kids rather than in each other. Then, once the kids leave the nest, there's little or no glue left in the couple's relationship. In non-traditional relationships, such as polyamorous ones, investment in the relationship often takes the form of shared experiences and adventures, including on a sensual and sexual plane. A deepening of friendship, respect, and caring also contributes to the attachment. In such a relationship, the partners strive to reach a mutually satisfactory balance between their personal freedom and their attachment and commitment to each other. That's somewhat different than in an escalator-based relationship, in which each partner is expected to be all in, and the partners may not much consider the importance of making room for their individual freedom. As is suggested in the thought-provoking book Designer Relationships by Mark A. Michaels and Patricia Johnson, the partners in a non-traditional relationship have latitude to jointly determine what they want out of their relationship and what they're willing to invest in it. In such relationships, there is no one-size-fits-all formula for balancing autonomy and commitment. Respectful and caring negotiation takes the place of social prescription. While thinking about obtaining support through a relationship may not seem especially romantic or sexy, that's an important consideration in life. As we've observed in earlier posts, none of us are truly independent. Instead, we are interdependent. That becomes especially, and sometimes painfully, apparent as we age. In escalator-based relationships, there is a presumption that the two partners are each other's main, or sometimes sole, source of support for meeting life's many demands. But what happens when one's partner grows ill or dies? The remaining partner is left in precarious circumstances. This isn't meant to focus on gloom and doom scenarios, but rather on the normal course of life. In escalator-based relationships, the safety net of supporting connections is sometimes limited to family members at best. At worst, the ending of a long-term relationship may leave the surviving partner without support beyond that provided by impersonal government agencies. Non-traditional relationships offer an alternative. In the case of polyamorous relationships, one may have multiple caring partners that can provide support in the case of the loss of a core long-term relationship. Of course, having multiple loving relationships is no guarantee of support throughout the term of one's life. Relationships can come and go, and caring for multiple partners requires a level of generosity, caring, and energy that may not be present in all partners. Still, having multiple close connections is a way to reduce one's vulnerability to the consequences of losing a core relationship. Perhaps there's a need for more exploration of and experimentation with non-traditional relationships, such as is found in various sorts of community living. Many polyamorous relationships seem to focus so hard on living fully in the moment that they may not much attend to taking a long-term perspective. Such an approach may result in much satisfaction in the present, while remaining vulnerable to the effects of a lack of long-term commitment. those two needs are not necessarily in opposition to one another. It may be that at least some forms of polyamorous relationships may provide a viable and a more satisfying alternative to the brittle sort of long-term mutual support provided by escalator relationships. As we've just seen, there's reason to consider the consequences of blindly stepping onto the relationship escalator. There are possible alternatives to consider. Alternatives that may offer a more satisfying but no less secure path toward thriving, long-term committed relationships. Having choices is good. Consciousness of both the benefits and the constraints of traditional relationships is a prerequisite for potentially being able to choose a different path. To learn more about Two Open Doors and to engage with our community, I'd like to invite you to visit the Two Open Doors private Facebook group, the Two Open Doors meetup group, and the Two Open Doors website and blog at twoopendoors.com. I also invite you to contact me directly by writing to me at Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, at twoopendoors.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll use your inputs to guide my work on future blog posts and podcast episodes. Thanks for visiting Two Open Doors.